Welcome to the 10X Creator Podcast, the show where we empower creators to build a successful business without burnout. Whether you're just starting or reinventing your next chapter, this is your space to break the rules, simplify success, and create a life of purpose and profit on your own terms. Today's guest is the host of the A for Abled podcast, a show that shines a light on mental health and disabilities and the conversations most people are afraid to have. He's not just sharing stories, he's challenging the norm, building a platform for the unheard, and sending a powerful message to the world. Don't let the world limit you. So let's start at the heart of the matter. Kara, what made you launch the A for Abled podcast? And what was the main moment that made you realize this is a story you need to tell the world?
Thank you for having me on your platform today. What made me start my podcast was my family. Honestly, it was my aunt encouraging me. Up until recently, I had been going through a lot. I had just moved into my own. I was struggling to pay bills and stuff like that, but things were getting better. But my aunt and I were talking, and she realized, at least to her knowledge, there wasn't a lot of podcasts talking about living with cerebral palsy as there are currently. This was a few years ago. Up until this point, she already knew that my podcast focused on being a nerd, which I am. So we focused on nerdy pop culture stuff. And
Yeah.
she's, why don't you talk about what it's like living with CP? And I'm like, I had never gotten that serious before. There were certain subjects I avoided. I avoided politics, I avoided talking about religion, and I avoided talking about living with CP because to me it was too deep. It was just something that I know a lot about, obviously, but not enough, I felt like. Then one day I thought about it. I was like, what would I title it? Then at about 11 p.m. one day, the title just pops in my head, and I tell my aunt and my mom, and they're both like, that's it, that's what you should call it. Then my mother and my sister ended up being my first guests for able. We talked about what it was like living with a son with a disability and a brother with a disability,
Yeah.
and the fact that they counted me out from the beginning, like not my family but doctors. When I was first diagnosed, they were like, he may not be able to walk, he may not be able to function in life normally. And I see people proving doctors wrong all the time. I hate that language. Absolutely can't stand it. Just because there are cases like that doesn't mean that you automatically, this is their life. They're going to be stuck in a wheelchair. They're going to be stuck in a walker, crutches, whatever, and not have a quality of life according to someone who has never gone through it. Yes, they've operated on people. I've had 3 surgeries in my life, and I only found out about them not counting me out as an adult. This was when I was a kid. They told my mother this. I didn't find this out until I was much older.
Yeah.
So that's what inspired me to want to make the podcast in the first place. I think it was special when we started it because we premiered the show on Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, which was
Yeah.
in October. And I had no idea at the time. That just holds a special time in my heart, 2019, right there.
Oh, 2019. Oh, okay. Yes. I was going to ask how long ago did you start this? Oh,
October 2019 was the first episode.
and you're right. Not many people would like to come out and share their story, maybe because they're afraid of being labeled. So the question
Exactly.
I guess I want to ask is how has creating the podcast helped you heal? How has it helped you grow and connect with others who are going through similar struggles?
Talking about this when there's a stigma around it,
Mhm.
having people be candid and truthful about what they personally have gone through, not what
Mhm.
the doctors have told them, not what their family has told them that they've gone through. It's them personally. It's helped me learn a lot about myself because everybody has something.
Mhm.
This is why I wanted to focus on mental health as well and not just having a physical disability because a lot of disabilities are invisible. Those people need to be heard too. So
Absolutely.
when I would approach my friends about it, some of my friends have kids and they themselves have disabilities or differences, and it helped me learn about them as people. their kids, what they hope for them, what they hope for themselves, like learning about everything from type 1 diabetes. Right up until then, I only really learned about type 2 because I had people in my family who had that. But one of my
Mm,
best friends has type 1, and learning about what they go through regularly just to live, what it's like being a parent who has a son on the spectrum. It's very eye-opening. I also learned about the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath from somebody who was diagnosed as both. And at the time, I had no idea that was possible. Because when you think the term psychopath, you're thinking like within the movies, the
right? Yeah.
stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine who was diagnosed broke down the differences and how he feels about these diagnoses. Everything, most of the time, I just ask questions off the cuff. A lot of times, I don't write questions down. I'd rather
Mhm.
it be like a normal conversation. But sometimes, depending on how well I know the person, if I don't know the person right away, then I'll do more research. But if I know the
Mhm.
person already, it's just a normal conversation, or we get to know each other. I want people to be comfortable enough to talk about this stuff because now we're talking about mental health more than ever before. But what does it mean for the individual? We're still struggling to get rights. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And it really shows how little we know. So I've used as an educational tool for myself, first off, and
Mhm.
also to shine a light for those people who are still struggling.
Now I also get the idea of why you wanted to talk about not letting the world define or limit you. For anyone that has a physical disability, it's not just the physical disability, it's the mental struggle, right? It's
Yeah.
how you battle your feeling of
Mhm.
self, not feeling that you're less than any other person, even if physically you have some challenges. You
Yep.
also mentioned it's not just for someone who's physically disabled. Everybody
Yeah.
has something. That's really great. My next question will be for anyone, no matter what their challenges are, whether it's physical, for some people it's finances. Disability can
Yeah.
come in different forms. We only see what we
Yes.
see, but there are things that people go through internally that we don't see. What do you say to these people? We know now that mental health is a thing. And when it comes to the perspective of not letting the world define your limits, how do you talk to people who have these challenges? What do you say to them?
I honestly, this is why asking questions is important, but not just asking questions, listening. Not just, we tend to like, and I don't want to generalize, but because I've been guilty of this myself, we tend to only listen when we like the answer.
True.
So my thing is whether it be good, bad, or in between, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable with
Hmm.
answers you get. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? My entire life, I've been stared at. I've been looked at as if it's be such a challenge going through life. And I know people that have gotten it worse, but
Hmm.
yet they're out here doing their thing. They're out here living life, and people are still shocked by this. What? Because a person in a wheelchair happens to be a comedian, a lawyer, a TV show host, a podcast host, that somehow that's shocking you. Okay. So did you ever ask the question why? I've literally been stopped and asked where I'm going, like by just random people. I go out my apartment for a little bit and I'll be going to work or something, and people would stop me in my tracks. I see you walking all the time. Where do you go? And I'm like, I go to work, man. Like, you have a job? I'm like, yes, I have a job. It may not be what you think. Yes, I have a job. Sometimes they're doing it because they're genuinely curious. So I will give them answers. Don't be
Hmm.
afraid to ask me the question, but it is awkward when you just stop me because I have to be reminded of that. If I didn't have this difference, because I have a penguin walk, I walk like a metronome, right? If I didn't have this difference, would you care? That's the question. If I did not have this difference that you can plainly see, would you care? Most of the time, the answer is no. I tell people if you have an issue internally, don't be afraid to ask questions. Seek help. Do your research. There are so many different sources you can use. If you're worried about saying the wrong thing, just say it, see what happens. Sometimes you got to be willing to take risks. And this is coming from somebody who had to learn in his 30s that you got to take risks. I
That's
hope that answers your
that's
question.
yeah, that's really important because for me, it's not just what you're saying that is inspiring me, it's what you're
Yeah.
doing. I think sometimes we're too busy thinking about ourselves, we're too busy chasing stuff, that
Yeah.
we don't slow down to care. About your podcast, right? You're passing a message. How
Mhm.
far do you want to take this? How far have you come from 2019 till now? And how far do you want to take this? What do you hope to achieve with what you're doing?
I got to be more consistent than I have been. You know what I'm saying? There are times where I'm thinking about should I ask for an interview? Because I get nervous. I deal with depression regularly, right? So I get
Mm,
I get nervous and overthink myself out of potential interviews, potential opportunities, things like that all the time.
mhm,
Now it's me trying to reinvent myself in a way, like even if I'm feeling nervous, push through and see what happens. Because there is no limit to this. There's stories like these every day, and I'm learning new things about the laws in America when it comes to disabilities in healthcare every day. So I
mm.
can keep going. All I do is research and talk to the right people and see what they say. I also want to do solo episode. I just want people to hear the message. I don't know how far this is go. I have no clue. But at the same time, I know I have to do it. It's not just a want anymore. It's something that I feel in my gut I have to do because we're still struggling with the same old stuff over here.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so if I can be a voice that cuts through the noise, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. It took me a while to get here. In my 30s is when I'm really on my self-discovery journey. That was me afraid of who I could be. I was learning things, but it was really when I hit my 30s that I feel like I've really come into my own. You know what I'm saying? And it's still a struggle, but I have a good support system. If you have a good support system, it makes it easier. It doesn't stop it, but it makes it easier when you have people that you can rely on or talk to. I'm
mm,
in therapy. I have my family behind me. I got my girlfriend behind me who has her own struggles too. It's because of my podcast that we met in the first place.
nice.
Did not
Yeah.
see that coming. And it speaks to my mother and my dad's very encouraging. My sisters are very encouraging. So I'm
Mm,
glad that I have the support system that I do because I know not everyone has that. But I've
true.
talked to people with different life stories. How did you get through what you went through
Hmm.
without breaking? And they're honest with me. Some of them tell me they broke down, but they had to get themselves back up. They found ways to get themselves back up. Nobody has a story where everything goes right for them right off the bat. You
You're
know what I'm saying?
right. You're right.
I'm just here to help them get those stories out if they're willing to share it. It's all about listening and learning that helps me learn more about myself. How far could I take this? I don't know. Whenever I feel like not doing it, I took a 3 year hiatus away from the mic because I was overthinking everything. Then I learned more about healthcare and stuff like that. And I was like, oh
Yep.
man, that is a lot. That's going
Hmm.
to take more than just one episode. Should I do it solo or should I try to get somebody in that space to interview or anything like that? And next thing
Yeah.
you know, that's how that went.
Yeah, I can relate to that story. I overthink a
Mm.
lot as well. Sometimes I have ideas rolling through my head, and every idea looks like, oh, this is great. This sounds like it's gonna work. But these days, I try to take it easy, do
Yeah.
one at a time. So, for anyone listening who wants to follow your journey, support your work, or tune into the A4 Abled podcast, where's the
Yes.
best place and how can they connect with you?
Okay. So I'm primarily on Spotify. I'm also on other platforms too, pretty much anywhere you could think of. I just recently started the A for Able YouTube channel. Right now, the content doesn't exactly match because I have about 30 episodes on my Spotify and only 2 episodes, about to be 3 episodes on my channel because I'm starting the channel from square one. Originally, the idea was to just edit audio and that's it. And then something told me, what? Try being on camera too, talking about this stuff, being on camera talking about this particular topic. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just do it. And now I'm just getting used to it. So if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. If you want to just listen and occasionally have a short or whatever, it's on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast.
Perfect. Sounds good. For those watching this on YouTube, I'm going to include the links where you can connect with Carl on the podcast on his YouTube channel. If today's episode moved you, please share, send it to one person who needs this message right now. And if you haven't already, show on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. It's going to help him and it's going to help us reach more creators who are building businesses, putting their words out there to make the world a better place and encourage others. So thanks again for tuning in to the 10X Creator Podcast, where we believe your story is your superpower. Your business can be simple and burnout isn't part of the blueprint. Until next time, stay bold, stay true, and keep creating without limits. Thanks for joining.